Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. This is the Week 4 recap edition of First Down with Bennie Fowler, where we talk to a Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver, and break down all of the top storylines and the action from Week 4 of the NFL season. Can't wait to dig in there. Want to tell you first about my bookie. My bookie sponsors Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. And if you want to win this football season, you need to do it with my bookie. Use the promo code PATSPICKS. And if you click on the link in any of my bios or social media profiles and use that promo code PATSPICKS, you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. Hope you guys keep rolling with those picks. I had the Bucks +1 as home dogs against the Eagles. They rolled. The Chiefs and the Chargers looked like they split there on that 7-point line. The Chiefs coming back and defeating the Chargers. But keep rolling with us. We had the Rico Dowdle props hit in the Thursday night game against the Giants for the Dallas Cowboys. So stick with us. Keep winning this football season on MyBookie with the promo code PATSPICKS in MyBookie's 10th year anniversary. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chago also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkingBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. And now onto our interview with Bennie Fowler, former Super Bowl champion, NFL wide receiver. All right, welcome back to Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. This is First Down with Bennie Fowler, Week 4 edition. Super Bowl champion, former NFL wide receiver Beans joins the program. What's up, Bennie?
Pat, what's good? What is good, man? How was the weekend for you?
It was great. It's a little weird. I get this weird feeling when I'm not in an NFL stadium on a Sunday. The Giants and Cowboys play Thursday. I get to take in the games Sunday on my couch, but I just feel like I should be there. How do you feel watching games?
The shitty rain Jets game. You didn't want to go to that one?
I had a funny feeling there wouldn't be many points scored in that one. And I already watched the game where the home team didn't score a touchdown at MetLife Stadium. So I figured I wouldn't make it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we cover all these top storylines and games throughout the league every week. And I wanted to start with one about your Super Bowl pick this year, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 4-0 right now.
Yep.
But Rashee Rice looks like he has a torn ACL. I mean, Pat Mahomes basically said on the field, we might be out without him the rest of the year. Hollywood Brown's already out for the year. And Isaiah Pacheco is out at least 8 weeks. My first question to you, Bennie, is which wide receiver should Brett Veach and the Chiefs trade for? I'm going to give you some names and we can bat it around. But here are the names I came up with. Devontae Adams of the Raiders, T. Higgins of the Bengals, Darius Slayton of the New York Giants, Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. I threw in Tyreek Hill just because that's funny because he's in Miami and they don't have a quarterback now, but that probably isn't going to happen. DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans and Deontay Johnson from the Carolina Panthers, maybe even like a guy like Gabe Davis from Jacksonville. Those are the names I came up with. Do you like anybody on that list for what the Chiefs need? Am I missing somebody?
I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be to add Tyreek Hill back to the lineup. I mean, just somebody who's super dynamic, somebody who's super explosive, who already knows the offense, who is familiar with Matt Nagy and also Andy Reid in terms of play calling. So when you think about that, that would be the ideal scenario. But I think, what Kansas City's going to need, they're going to need a great pass catcher. If I were Brett Veach, I'd go after somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, somebody who's on the last year of his deal. Tennessee isn't good, and this is his opportunity to win. And you talk about somebody who has reliable hands, somebody who knows how to get open, not always the cleanest route runner, but he makes it happen. And he's been one of the most incredible receivers over the last decade in terms of just how he plays. I don't think the Bengals would ever trade anything to Kansas City.
I agree.
So I think that's completely wiped out. I think Slade would fit in really well with the Kansas City Chiefs, but at the same time, they still got Xavier Worthy. They have some speed guys. They need a possession guy. They need an explosive run after catch person. Rashid Rice, he could catch those little spot routes, as we call them, or hitch routes, and then go get the first down. He's super explosive. He was a great route runner. He could be a possession guy, but he also could do run after the catch. So you need that. They're going to need that element of what Rashid Rice really brings to the table. Somebody who's explosive, run after the catch. Even though DeAndre Hopkins isn't like that, he's more of a first down possession guy, but he's going to go make the play.
Is Rashid Rice a little like Brandon Ayuk in his skill set?
A little bit. I would say he's more explosive after the catch than BA. BA is a route savant and has incredible routes, but I'd give the yards after the catch more to Rashid Rice in terms of just that explosive, get up the field, get downhill.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree on the catch and run. I also not to dump on the player, but Sky Moore, Benny, cannot catch the football. Like, he's not the answer. Clearly, he was a guy a lot of coaches in the NFL liked coming out of college. And I remember, I think they started with him on punt return when he was a rookie. He struggled there. He just doesn't seem. You talk a lot about, receivers catching with their hands versus their body. We talked about Neighbors last week. Sky looks like he struggles catching with his hands. They do have Xavier Worthy. You're right. Obviously explosive. But even just the way, Travis Kelce, I know he had a bounce back game, but, he's obviously showing the wear on his tires. And they need to make a splash here. I mean, they need somebody that Patrick Mahomes can trust. And I know Mahomes, unfortunately, ends up, a part of the Rashid Rice injury there. But yeah, I agree. Sorry,
they'll be all right. I think you lose a player like that, you lose Hollywood Brown, things like that suck. Juju Smith-Schuster can step up in the meantime. He can give you 3 to 4 solid games. But the biggest win for Kansas City yesterday wasn't just on the scoreboard. It was with Kareem Hunt. Now they have, the rookie has put the ball on the ground twice. And now Kareem Hunt comes back into the fold, somebody who can catch the ball out of the backfield, ran great, ran behind his pads, and was the go-to back in the second half and in that game-winning drive. So that is a positive for Kansas City, and Kansas City will find a way. Andy Reid and those guys, they'll find a way to add a couple of key pieces and keep the great people around Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is where Patrick Mahomes will now have to step up in terms of his quarterback play, his evolution. We saw with Brady in Tampa Bay, not in Tampa Bay, but you saw it more so in New England. He'd lose a Julian Edelman for 5-6 games or the year. He'd lose a Gronk, and he'd find a way
great
to
comp,
make plays. And not only that, Belichick and I guess Belichick was the GM and their coach. They would find a way to give Brady other weapons. You think about a guy.
What, Amendola?
You had Amendola. You had a James White. Rex Burkhead. New England would go into a game with 5 running backs dressed.
Yeah. That's a really good comp too. It's kind of like the combination of, we're not going to go out and make a splash because we have an injury. We're going to add a guy with a skill set that fits the scheme that we run and that our quarterback is comfortable with, right? Like it doesn't have to be like, that's why I like you. I mean, Hopkins obviously has been a premier player, but I like you picking DeAndre Hopkins out of the guys we named because he's more of the, it's not the Devontae Adams. And listen, that's a division rival. The Raiders aren't trading him to the Kansas City Chiefs, you wouldn't think. But you're not making the most expensive acquisition. You're making maybe the acquisition that is less of a headline, but more in line with here's what Patrick Mahomes needs. He doesn't need more than this, right?
Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins are the people that fit best in terms of an Andy Reid type of scheme. Somebody who can make a play. Amari Cooper getting open on slants, just his ability to get open at the line. I don't think Patrick Mahomes has had that in his career in terms of a receiver who has what Amari Cooper has at the line of scrimmage. So those are the people that fit. Sky Moore, incredible talent. I just don't think Patrick Mahomes is his type of quarterback. I think he would have to play. You could see his ability more with a CJ Stroud type of quarterback.
What, going down the field rather than underneath?
Underneath, but a catch and run ball, like just a different type of offense, a different type of way to get him the ball. He needs jet sweeps / you make it easier for him. So
I love the Amari Cooper fit. I know Hopkins makes sense, but Amari Cooper, to me, you put him on the Chiefs the rest of the season, hypothetically, and he stays healthy and Mahomes stays healthy, you're talking about another Mahomes MVP just with that piece, in my opinion. While we're on these receivers, Devontae Adams, listen, I'm not accusing him of anything, but and I know they beat the Cleveland Browns, but Devontae Adams pulls up with a hamstring on Friday, reportedly, according to Adam Schefter, doesn't play in the game, supposed to miss a few weeks. Do you think he's played his last game as a Raider? This, of course, came a week after Antonio Pierce called everybody out, said there were guys making business decisions. I mean, do you think we'll see him on a new team by the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think his time has kind of run its course there in Las Vegas. I mean, he went there to go play with one of his really good friends, and that friend is no longer there. And I think it becomes tough because, Devontae Adams is not only playing to try to win a Super Bowl and win at the highest level. I mean, he's also playing for, solidifying himself into the Hall of Fame. And as, I don't like to talk down on any player just because I was a player. But Gardner Minshew just isn't his type of quarterback. Like, he played with Aaron Rodgers. You can't play with Aaron Rodgers for 10 years and then you have Derek Carr and Gardner Minshew as your QBs and Aiden O'Connell. Those just aren't your type of quarterbacks. You're just not used to that type of pass. You're not used to that type of. He's probably coaching these guys up in terms of how to throw him the ball, which is something that he never had to do. So, yeah, I think it's time for him to go find a new home. The question is, where is it? Is it in New York? I don't know. I know they got some really good weapons over there, but they got a lot of things to solve over there. But you got a Mike Williams, you got a Garrett Wilson, and you have Lazard. Where does Devontae Adams fit in? Because now he comes in and he automatically becomes a guy. Garrett Wilson is not going to be too fond of that because he's super talented and he is young, and it's time for him to get his money. So curious to see what type of situation Devontae lands himself in. I don't know if what home he could find. Maybe it is a Minnesota or a team that's like, all right, like, we're going to go all in, and you trade for somebody like that. So that's what you do when you get a Devontae Adams type of person on the trading block.
But yeah, good point. You kind of like be careful what you wish for of when you want to change scenes and scenarios, and you deserve that big contract, but also it's also, as a player, you have to think of the full context of the new situation you're joining, the situation you're leaving, right? Those have to be really difficult decisions. But I think, yeah, you're pointing to his next destination for him to thrive the way that he wants to needs to be with the caliber of quarterback that he is not getting in Las Vegas. That'll be fascinating to watch. Benny, wanted to shift to what I think is quietly maybe the top storyline of week 4. You could agree or disagree with me. Wasn't exactly difficult to see coming, but Joe Flacco stepping into the Colts game at 39 years old and winning this game for them against the undefeated previously Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I don't think the Colts are going on a Super Bowl run here or anything, but I do think that you look at Anthony Richardson, 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3 fumbles, 50% completion percentage. Flacco steps in, goes 16 to 26, 168, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Pro Football Reference, they have a stat, Benny, called expected points added. And so that gauges how many points your side of the ball basically would add or take away based on all the data in a specific game. In week 1, the Colts were plus 7.5 points, expected points added, which was good on offense. They were negative 1.8 in week 2. They were negative 2.9 in week 3. In week 4, they go to plus 12.9 with Flacco playing a majority of the game. Richardson is hurt. Flacco is in. Do you agree with me that this type of veteran presence on a team like the Colts that are still now sitting at second place in their division is a major and one of the bigger storylines of this week?
I don't know if it's one of the bigger storylines, but it is something to always keep your eye on, just because, Joe Flacco did it with last year with Cleveland, where they went on this incredible run. He knows how to play the game at the highest level. He's won a Super Bowl. He's at that point in his career where he has a I don't give a shit mentality when he comes in. Like, I just love the fact that I'm still playing football. So, like, he goes out there, he slings it around, everybody's happy. Colts have a dilemma on their hand, because when you watch Anthony Richardson play and throw the ball, you're like, holy shit, like, he is incredible in terms of his talent. He hasn't harnessed it yet. And yeah, the turnovers will kill you. So, Indy getting that win, that was a big win. And TJ Watt not having any sacks, because that's Joe Flacco was getting rid of the ball, wasn't holding on to the ball. So it is something to watch, and something to be interested in, just as they are second in the division. If they can get a couple games away from, or take 2 games away from Houston, then we'll see what happens, because Tennessee is going to be 0-4 maybe tonight, and and Jacksonville's 0-4. So the division is going to be between those 2 teams. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, to me, no, you're right. I mean, there's obviously, the Vikings, the Ravens, things we'll get to, definitely like bigger, more impressive victories and stories as far as like Super Bowl contenders go. But yeah, no, this just fascinates me, because it's like when these teams get put into positions where they have the young QB who's clearly the future, and then a veteran comes in, and obviously Joe Flacco is not going to be around very long, but it's a lot like what happened in Cleveland last year.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, maybe we should just leave Deshaun Watson on the bench because this is going pretty well, and then, the guy's back this year at quarterback, but everyone's like, no, we just saw last year he wasn't the answer. He still isn't.
Right.
Just an interesting dynamic there. And yeah, like you get like a guy like Michael Pittman gets a little bit more involved. I just wonder if they let Richardson sit a couple extra weeks here, if the whole team in the locker room's looking around, they're like, yeah, we clearly see we're better off, but
for sure they will.
Yeah,
they'll find a way. They'll make sure he rests that hip.
Yeah. Right. Good point. But yeah, turning to some of the most impressive performances. Let's go to the Vikings. I mean, I guess we have to talk about the Vikings every week right now. They go to 4-0, 31-29 over the Green Bay Packers. And Benny, they've done this they beat the Giants, and then they beat the Niners, the Texans, and the Packers. What stood out to you in this game against Green Bay?
Again, Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year. Flores, assistant coach of the year. It still makes me uncomfortable to say that Sam Darnold could be a MVP candidate or top 3 MVP candidate. But when you think about watching a Minnesota game, yes, Justin Jefferson's going to get his catches, which he had 6 for 85 and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Addison getting involved with 2 touchdowns. You have Aaron Jones getting involved. Everybody's touching the ball, and that makes an offense hard to stop. And similar to when San Francisco is firing on all cylinders, you see Kittle, you see Debo, you see Ayuk, you see the running back, you just see everybody doing well. And it's the same offense. They run the same offense. It's that same West Coast Shanahan offense, built off play action, and everybody is touching the rock. And when that happens, your offense is explosive. What they do have, which makes me want to buy stock in Minnesota, is that their defense is playing incredible. Now, they let up in the second half of that game, but what Flores is doing in terms of confusing quarterbacks, the veteran presence that they have with Harrison Smith and Stephon Gilmore and the people up front, I mean, they just got a really good team right now. They have a really good team. They have chemistry. And then once you get, they're at 4-0 right now.
Yeah.
Once you start to believe, then you take off even more. Now we'll see. I heard Bill Belichick say this, and I totally agree with his comment, number one, because he's, just he's the best coach of all time. But I do agree with this comment. We have not seen this team have to come back in a game. So if they do get down in a game, what does that really look like? And this offense to me isn't built to like, oh, if I'm down 14 or if I'm down 10, in the fourth quarter, because it's so built heavy on the run and play action. So we'll see that. But in terms of the first quarter of the season, Minnesota looks like a real contender. And I don't know, Pat, are you buying their stock?
I am. You know what stands out to me? And I don't know who they would go to get, where they would go to get this, but maybe you have a better idea of the specific names that would stand out. I was watching that yesterday and just as enamored, uncomfortably so, with Darnold's continued play and they're winning. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, do they need to go and get a backup quarterback right now? Like, because if he gets hurt, they have Nick Mullins as the next man up. Everything will look different. And listen, I know he could turn into a pumpkin, Sam Darnold, next week. So, maybe this is just fleeting and it's not going to happen even with Darnold. But if I'm O'Connell and Flores and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in Minnesota right now, this looks to me like we're for real right now. And so I would not leave myself open to like what the Jets went through last year, right? Where it's like, hey, we really don't have confidence in any of our backup quarterbacks, but we love our number one. And then your number one gets hurt and you say, wait a minute. Remember that conversation we had about our backup? I do buy stock in them, mainly like you said, because I think even if you anticipate what Flores is throwing at you defensively, I think their talent plus his aggressiveness and his multiplicity or his variability, there's enough of all of that to catch you off guard for a good portion of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like you saw in Miami too, Benny, like, yeah, clearly he didn't treat Tua very well personally, and Tua hates his guts, and all that came out. But that team that he coached in Miami played their asses off for him.
Yeah.
And like, you remember they won like 6 in a row the year he got fired.
Yeah.
They won 6 in a row with a team like you would probably name 2 guys on the defense.
0.
Right. And they really didn't have much of an offense either. And so I think there's a lot, there's a whole discussion to have about Brian Flores and what head coach he could be next and all that. But I think his presence there, along with how great O'Connell has been at scheming up and at developing Darnold, makes them as for real as the talent they have.
What kind of quarterback could they go get, though? That's the question. Like, who's out there for them to be like, hey, we're gonna trade for a backup QB right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I would think you're not gonna be able to get like a Tyrod Taylor off the Jets' hands, for example, because the whole reason he's here is, what happened last year with Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't think they would be excited. I mean, if Drew Lock isn't going to play here like he thought he was in New York, can you grab Drew Lock off the Giants? I mean, could he be Sam Darnold for Kevin O'Connell? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of an upgrade he would be on Nick Mullins. I mean, we saw Nick Mullins, right? Like we saw him last year with Kevin O'Connell, and I think they lost a game to the Raiders 6-0 at home, where they either won 6-0 or lost 6-0. But it was one of the more ugly displays of football we've ever seen.
Could be with Addison, Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson didn't play a lot last year. It could be totally different. Naylor is a totally different player as a second-year player.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different roster. And Aaron Jones is the running back. Nick Mullins could be a different quarterback with this type of system with all of these pieces.
I mean,
who's the running back for Minnesota last year? Atson? Like, no, that's not Aaron Jones and Matson or whatever his name is. That's 2 totally different players.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a huge deal. Like the Aaron Jones addition, it was even week 1 when the Giants were about to face them. I felt like the thing people were not talking enough about was Aaron Jones being on the team. Mm-hmm. You had just watched him torch the Cowboys in the playoffs for 3 touchdowns and did whatever he wanted. And that was against a Cowboys team that ran through a lot of the league last year. I agree, especially with the way O'Connell coaches and the offensive kind of scheme and how it relies on the run. I think he's as big of an addition as anything. That's a fair point with them being healthy. Could it look different with a guy like Nick Mullins? Other guys I'm looking at as we discuss this, just perusing what the heck could their options actually be. Mac Jones is sitting on the bench in Jacksonville. That would not be my choice. Just
No
saying.
chance.
Yeah. Bryce Young obviously has been benched in Carolina. And then you also have, there was somebody else who just stood out to me as I was looking around the league. I mean, a guy like Davis Mills from Houston, but no one who
I'd keep
jumps
Nick
out.
Mullins.
Yeah.
Hot take is that Bryce Young ends up in San Francisco next year as the backup to Purdy.
Ooh.
Get a quarterback resurgence, really teach him how to play the game. No pressure on him. Go to a situation like that. And then you find out that Carolina is who we thought they were. And they played exactly like that yesterday. They're just a losing organization. And they were all hyped last week about that win. Now you have to play a decent team, and you're the same team.
Benny, how big of a deal is it for some guys to just get a change of scenery? I mean, Darnold, again, an example of that. But is it that human element a huge part sometimes of players' careers turning around, just getting out of a toxic environment and into a fresh start?
Yeah, I think when you think about a Sam Darnold, it's hard to play in New York. Number 2 overall pick coming from USC, and thinking that he's about to come in there and save him. Horrible head coach, and not a great roster around him. Yeah, that can make you question your ability. And then you go to San Francisco, resurgence year, and then you go to Minnesota. But like Kevin O'Connell actually believes in you and is talking to you as a coach. And then here you are, no different than Brock Purdy coming into a great situation. Brock Purdy comes into a great situation. They find out right away, like, holy shit, you can play. And then they play him.
Right.
Like, you got to, that's a great environment. I think about the environment that I came into in Denver. It was just a great environment. It was a player-led environment, and it was all about winning. I mean, we were going to have our fun, but like, it was serious. But that's a great environment. And then when I go to places like the Giants, or when I went to Chicago right out of free agency, it's like, oh no, like, I can see why you guys don't win here. I can see it like right away.
It stands out.
100%. Just the way the building's set up, the way people walk around there, the way things are getting done, the way things are communicated.
Would it be oversimplifying it to say that the winning organizations are, in your vantage point, like, you're there 9 to 5 or whatever it is for a full day? Would it be fair to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that the winning organizations seem more focused on the right things, whereas there's a lot of time spent in losing organizations on details that don't matter as much?
Winning organizations, yeah, they're always putting what's the most important thing right now, and they handle that. And that's how they go about certain things. And everything is all in on winning. I mean, the year we won the Super Bowl, they traded for Vernon Davis. He didn't have a crazy amount of stats, but it was just like, oh no, we're trying to win. In my rookie year, we went 12-4 or 13-3. I can't remember. We had like 14 Pro Bowls on the team, but you can imagine what it's like for training camp and practice every day. I mean, those are some of the most heated practices flying around. Like, I've never seen I didn't see anything like it until I got to New Orleans. My first 2 years, it was crazy. And then my third year in Denver was still super competitive. My fourth year, we hired Vance Joseph. It was just that team had run its course. That culture had run its course, and Peyton wasn't there anymore. Then when I went to New Orleans and played with Sean, we got back to that, but it was the same, the level of detail and the intensity of practice was way harder than the game was going to be. And it was heated in there, but you love it. And that's what, I didn't experience that in New York at all.
That's very interesting. Those are the insights from you. I just, you can't get anywhere else. The idea of you having your eyes wide open so much to the culture of these buildings and how the preparation translates to what we see on the field. I was actually having a conversation with my sports editor at the Daily News about, we were just talking this morning, preparing our coverage for the week. And I said that I feel like over the last couple years, the quality of play is down in the NFL. And I find I notice this, Benny, because like, let's say I'm covering a Giants game at 1:00 on a Sunday. I catch up on all the games afterwards, but I'm not able to sit there and follow every game because I'm zeroed in on what's happening on the field at the stadium that I'm at. Like, I'll be in Seattle this week for the Giants. But when I'm sitting there on a Sunday and the Giants play on a Thursday and I can watch all the games and follow them all, I'm not impressed by most of the team's operations. I don't see a lot of teams that jump out to me as all around strong operations that are going to contend for something. I don't know if you would agree with that or disagree with that. My hypothesis is things that are reasons for that would be that teams can't practice as often. There's a lot of young coaches who are kind of learning on the job versus veteran coaches. So maybe some brain drain. I think some of the quarterback play is down, but kind of postulating a lot of different reasons why I just come away from an NFL Sunday where I'm like, not many of these teams are any good. But what is your take on all that?
The NFL wants the scoring to be up. I mean, that's basically, that was be one of my takeaways is that the NFL wants scoring to be up. So there's a lot more passing. There's a lot less emphasis on ground and pound, running the ball. If you think about some of the games from 10 years ago, you got a guy like a Marshawn Lynch in the backfield and, they're going to win 21-17. Like you think about those, you think about a Le'Veon Bell, you think about Pittsburgh and running the football. You think about those teams. I even remember the New England game. It might have been one of Mac Jones's only wins, but you think about the emphasis that Bill Belichick put on running the ball. I think they went up to Buffalo and they passed 4 times, but they ran the ball 45 times. You just don't have coaches like that anymore. You have all these gurus who want to throw the ball downfield. Yeah, and I think there's just a lack of development and like real coaching and understanding of why you call certain plays. You don't have people like Andy Reid on the sideline, on all the sidelines. Andy Reid's like really looking at the entire roster, who fits in where. And then you have a Eagles situation where they're super talented, but it looks like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks in terms of the way they call plays. It's just really shitty play calling.
I totally agree with that point. Like the fact that Spagnuolo and Reid, they coach every game to win that game, right?
That's it. One of my biggest things of why I think Tom Brady was so incredible is he would play quarterback to win whatever game that was. A lot of people, when they look at Tom Brady or they watch Tom Brady, yes, they remember the down the field throws or they remember the years with Randy Moss. What I remember with Tom Brady and playing against him, or even the Super Bowl that he came back against Atlanta in, he threw the running back, James White, the ball. James White had 15 catches. The running back. But that was what was going to win the game. So you think about things like that. Tom Brady didn't have an ego when it came to like whatever it takes to win the game. Oh, wait, we're going to throw the ball to Rex Burkhead and James White 25 times this game because they can't check the running back out of the backfield. All right, cool. Julian Edelman, you're going to have 1 catch. And everybody's all right with that. Like, I think, you don't have that type of coaching.
Benny, James White not winning the MVP in that Super Bowl is still, I think, one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Right up there with Dante Hightower not winning it the year that I think Brady won it that year too. No, it was Edelman. Edelman won the Super Bowl MVP the year that Sean McVay's Rams offense runs through the league. Belichick and the Patriots hold them to 3 points in the Super Bowl. And the MVP is on offense.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
Don't get me started.
Look at Todd Monken. I don't know if I think this might be a trend, but look at what Todd Monken and the Ravens did last night. They found a rhythm now after 4 weeks of the season of like, okay, hey, this is what we do really well. This is how we can dress some things up. And look what they did to the Buffalo Bills.
Oh,
but they ran the football though. It was like, no, people can't stop this, and this is how we're going to call plays. But that was great play calling last night, along with players making the plays.
I was about to pivot to the Ravens, so great segue. And You're 100% right. Like, obviously, Flores, fantastic week after week, but this Todd Monken play calling performance last night against the Bills, he might deserve the assistant coach of the week award for the play calling here. And it was staying committed to the run. It was also Benny putting Lamar under center at times, right?
Yep.
Like, this is something that they don't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
And like the touchdown they had where they put Lamar under center and they play action Derrick Henry on the run, they have to honor that because they can't stop it. And then the linebacker whose responsibility is for Derrick Henry is 2 steps further upfield than he needs to be. And you just throw it right to 22 and he's inside the pylon for a touchdown. I just thought all the play calls too, they were so well married to the running schemes they were running.
Yep.
And then
Justice Hill.
What was that?
Justice Hill and what he did last night. I mean, just a dynamic. Now they got, Baltimore knows they got a 1-2 punch of like somebody who can catch the ball, but also run the ball. And then you have Derrick Henry who can catch and run too. But like you said, marrying the play calls.
My overriding question about the Ravens is, so here are their stats, rushing yards for the first 4 games. So they're only 2-2, but they had 185 rushing yards in week 1, 151 in week 2, 274 in week 3 against the Cowboys. And they backed that up with 271 against the Bills. Benny, you and I both know what playoff football looks like. Like, is it very clear that as long as the Ravens stay relatively healthy, like this version of the Ravens is going to be as hard of an out as any?
100%. I mean, they were, I wouldn't say their rushing attack was like this last year, but they were clicking on all cylinders at the end of last year. The only thing in the playoffs is that, if you come out and you get bombed a couple times, running the ball isn't as effective. So it really just depends. And if I had to bet on Spagnuolo doing that or playing the Ravens, then I'm always going to go with Kansas City, at least for right now. Like, you're still going to have to travel there. And if not, they have no problem going there. So, but right now, with everything that Kansas City's going through, the way Baltimore's running the ball, I'd pick them.
I was thinking about this too, legacy-wise. Like you mentioned legacy with Devontae Adams earlier. Lamar's legacy, I mean, if he just wins one,
Yep.
like if he just wins one, the quality of player he is and the production he has and how they roll teams over like this, like the Bills were playing as well as anybody in the league going into this game. They lose 35-10.
I thought Josh Allen was the MVP up until last night.
I mean, yeah, like this, there's another legacy. Josh Allen, always there, but never over the hump, right?
Yeah.
Just fascinating how those things kind of change the history of the league and storylines in general. All right, wanted to wrap up by going over the NFC East. And I want to take your temperature on the whole division, but I want to start obviously with the Washington Commanders. I thought their defense was going to get, blitzed by Kyler Murray and some of the speed they had out there. Not only did they take it to the Cardinals offense, but Benny, Jaden Daniels and Washington's offense. I mean, what are they doing right week after week? And so we talked about, are you buying stock in the Vikings? Washington now 3-1 plus 19 points overall for the season. Jaden Daniels looking like not only a rookie of the year leading contender, but an MVP candidate. Are you buying stock in Washington having a chance to win this division?
Did I pick Jaden Daniels as my rookie of the year?
I think you did.
Yeah, I just no, I'm not picking them to win the NFC East now. But he's a monster. And I think Cliff Kingsbury is doing a great job of calling plays. But I think some certain quarterbacks have it. Like when you watch Jaden Daniels, he doesn't look like a rookie in the pocket. You watch him play, when you watch him throw the ball, he doesn't look like a rookie. So he's got a little bit of that CJ Stroud. We'll see how the rest of the year plays out in terms of how well he plays the entire year as a rookie. But in terms of overall pocket presence, the way he stands in there, the way he's able to make some reads, the way he's able to understand the game and the concepts, yeah, for sure, rookie of the year. I don't know if I can buy the stock in terms of them winning the NFC East. I still think Dallas could, beat them. And and we'll see about Philly. I'm not a believer right now in Philly, but Saquon is still putting up the numbers every week. So, and I know he likes to have field days against Washington. But right now, Jaden Daniels, man, he looks really good. But this comes back to the coaching. You got a veteran head coach in Dan Quinn who knows how to galvanize the locker room, somebody who's been to a Super Bowl, and somebody who has a tremendous amount of respect around the league. Then you have Cliff Kingsbury, who can call plays and great plays. I just don't think he was head coach material. And then, yeah, Dan's calling the defense over there, and you got a credible veteran presence, and a guy like Bobby Wagner. Things like that go a long way. Terry McLaurin, veteran. You have some really good pieces and players. Austin Eckler, another veteran. So Zach Ertz, another veteran. You just have you got solid leaders in the building. And when you think about a young quarterback coming in there, he's got enough on his plate. But if you watch Zach Ertz in there, who's been playing for 10 years, Austin Eckler, who's been a player, you see a Bobby Wagner in there, you see how those guys take care of their body, their minds, the way they approach practice. You have no choice but to fall in line with that.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I like that Jaden Daniels threw an interception yesterday. First of all, he threw an interception being aggressive, which, it wasn't the wrong throw. It was just a throw he missed and threw high. But I liked that he threw that, and then Washington just kept getting the ball back and scoring. You know what I mean? Like I like seeing that adversity. I like seeing that, yes, they were rolling, but he has a hiccup. He comes right back out. He seems like, I've heard this about Stroud too. Like Daniels comes off a little bit like an alpha, and that should sound obvious because he's a starting quarterback, but not all guys are that.
No.
And I think your pocket presence comment speaks to that. It's like a guy who everything that happens on their offense, even if it's just a running play to Brian Robinson Jr., like everything reflects on him. And so he owns it, takes it personally. I very much see that. So
two different scenarios that I'll break down real quick in terms of coaching staffs. Caleb Williams inherits a coaching staff from last year, but they're all coaching for their jobs. So they will call plays differently. They will act differently throughout the week. Dan Quinn's already been a head coach, and he's been a successful head coach who comes into Washington, picks his guy, and operates from a place of strength, as well as Cliff Kingsbury. Two totally different situations. Same thing last year. Bryce Young, Frank Wright, they fire him middle of the season. Now Bryce Young is without a head coach, and like the turnovers has already started. Houston brings in D'Amico Ryan. D'Amico Ryan brings in an offensive coordinator that worked under Kyle Shanahan. They're operating from a place of strength and know that hey, we're going to be here for at least 4 years, and they're going to act and operate as if. So things to be just noticing. It's just no different than in business. You have to hire the right people.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of the leadership and the dynamics of certain situations, I know Kyler Murray had an explosive game earlier this season. And not to take anything away from Washington, they earned this, but I thought their offensive performance was a joke against Washington in this game. I thought their plan was horrendous. And Benny, and Kyler's been criticized for this before. His body language stinks.
Yeah.
Like, you can see that in guys when you're playing CYO basketball when you're a kid.
Right.
Like it has an impact on a basketball game in a rec league.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a professional football player. You have a fourth down that doesn't get converted. You start hanging your head and you're down, I don't know, 17-10. I mean, what are we doing?
What do you do? What do you see? What do you think? What do you hear in terms of that? I mean,
what I hear in terms of that is that they have kept the organization behind him because of the owner. So this all goes into the coaching hirings as well, Benny, where, they hired Jonathan Gannon. Obviously they tampered to do it. The Eagles complained and Arizona had to kind of pay for that. But they hire a young coach who is up and coming and is also telling the owner what he wants to hear as far as like, yeah, I believe in Kyler. I can win with Kyler.
Yeah.
And like quietly, if there were a cranky old coach who came in there and he had a lot of pedigree, but he said, yeah, I'd probably replace this guy in the long run, or I'd give him a chance, but I'd probably replace him because he better change X, Y, and Z. If the owner doesn't like to hear that, that's how coaching hires happen.
Yep.
And, I don't know how long that leash and that rope is, because I think kind of what you're alluding to here too is this has been a problem before, Benny. Like, this
I
is
would have
nothing
had
new.
the biggest problem with me. There was a homework clause in the contract to begin with, which was already a red flag. Which would, to me is like, oh, if we have to do this, I'm just gonna hold out on this as long as possible. Play him on
Yeah.
some 1-year deals, some franchise tag deals, and just kind of roll the dice because you're gonna end up in the same situation anyway.
Yeah. I guess the best way to put it would be if Daniel Jones acted after failed plays or during bad games the way that Kyler did, he would get destroyed
Yeah.
in New York. Destroyed. Like, and I was actually thinking that when I was watching that, I'm like, this needs to be talked about, and people need to notice this and cover it like he's an NFL quarterback, because yeah, he's in a different market, but if he were in another market, this would lead the shows. I haven't watched any of the morning shows on Monday morning here coming out of week 4, but this deserves to be blown up. And I mean, I watched a quarter of this game, like play by play, and then I watched all the different highlights and stuff. The quarter I watched, I saw him hanging his head 3 times. I mean, that's a quarter of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting fired up.
Unacceptable from your leader, at
I'm getting
least, and
fired up
especially
here,
somebody
man.
who wears a C on his chest.
I'm getting fired up. We'll get out of here with this. I know you're a busy man. The Dallas Giants game, obviously we're several days removed from it, but we haven't talked about it yet. I just wanted to say DeMarvion Overshawn, the linebacker on the Cowboys, I think is an absolute game wrecker, baller.
Yeah.
Love that player. I remember him back at the Senior Bowl. And then he was actually a pretty big injury for them last year. You think about their defense not showing up in the playoffs, but loved what I saw from him. But obviously not exactly a great game to watch, a lot of field goals. But what stood out to you about what the Cowboys are and what the Giants are in this game?
Cowboys, I still don't know what their identity is. I think, CeeDee Lamb showed up and made his plays, but I wouldn't say that the Giants have the most, great secondary. So CeeDee Lamb was able to do his thing. I think the Giants do have a great front seven, and DeMarcus Lawrence, what an animal in terms of who he is as a player. Daniel is efficient, but he missed some of the big time throws that, a starting quarterback who's getting paid the type of money he's getting paid should be making and should be finishing. The deep ball to Slay. There's a couple passes where he's just got to make those throws and he's got to put some more on it. But, I think the question is, to me, is he overthinking now? Hey, I don't want to make a mistake, which is a tough place to be in to play quarterback or just to play sports in general. Now is like, hey, I'm not going to go for it because I don't want to throw an interception or I don't want to turn the ball over. So, it's a tough situation. But Dayball called a great game plan. Malik Neighbors is a player and did really well. I mean, some of the creative things coming out of the backfield. I mean, just tell me that you're not seeing literally a reincarnation of the first couple of years of Odell being there in terms of, put him in the backfield, or we're going to find ways to get him jet sweep. We're going to slants, and he's running through the ball. He's making plays. So he's the guy. I was talking to one of my buddies yesterday, Jaden Hyatt, that he won the Biletnikoff.
Oh yeah. Jalen Hyatt. Yep.
Yeah. Won the Biletnikoff. How does he not play?
So Jalen said a couple times when we asked him about this last week, because ESPN reported off of him not really playing much, that he had yelled out at a practice in late summer that if you're not going to use me, trade me.
Kansas City.
Right. So this is a guy, Benny, they traded up in the draft to get him. They gave up a 4th rounder to go up in the 3rd round to get him 2 years ago. He had a 100-yard game last year against the Patriots, but really was not consistently productive. Jalen, now,
is it drops?
He said to us twice that it's what Daniel is most comfortable with. In other words, Daniel's more comfortable with Darius Slayton than me. But
understandable.
Yeah, true, understandable. And Slayton's also a better player. I mean, like he's a more well-rounded, better receiver. Hyatt does not run the full route tree as well. And also, I remember this. I don't think this is an issue now, Benny, but I remember last year as a rookie, they started him in camp like with the third team offense. And what I had heard was that it was playbook stuff, like getting his hands around a complicated offense. He's being asked to know all three wide receiver positions because he did play a lot in the slot in Tennessee, but they want him to learn a lot. So I view it as all the above, but this is a GM and a program that's trying to justify all of their picks if they can. So the fact that he's not playing, even with them not scoring touchdowns, is glaring, Benny.
It just doesn't make any sense for him not to play. Regardless if he can learn the playbook or not. If Kadarius Toney, who was struggling with the playbook in New York, finds a way to win 2 Super Bowl rings in Kansas City, and they just find a way to get him the ball or call a set of plays where he can show his unique ability, then, I mean, that's a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying he's got to play over Slayton because I think Slay can play, and I think Slay has continued to show his consistency. But you got to, I mean, why not have both of them on the field? I mean, it's a lot of speed.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fascinating. I think another element of it is in a numbers game. So there's a lot of talk about the Giants O-line getting better. It is better in pass protection than it has been, like compared to last year where they literally couldn't function as an offense. But A, they're still not scoring many points. They're averaging 15 a game. But B, they're going a lot of max protect. So they're playing 2 tight ends, keeping them in, or 1 tight end in the back staying in. So there's a lot of like 2-man routes, maybe the tight end chipping and coming out as a third. Sometimes they're going 11 personnel, running the 3 wide receivers out, but there's a lot of 2-man routes. And so he's just not getting on the field, especially because when they run a 2-man, it's Neighbors, and then it's Wandale plays over him as a catch and run guy. Slayton plays over him as an all-around guy who can also go deep. And so Hyatt really is an 11 personnel receiver at best in this offense for the most part. But to your point, I mean, if you want some explosiveness to your team and to your offense, even if it's a 2-man route, maybe give him more shots than he's getting at that, right?
At least a little bit. So
it's fascinating. Dable did make a comment at the end, because so the Hail Mary basically that Daniel threw that Amani Oruwariye intercepted, former Giant, that was intended for Hyatt. And it was a very deep ball that he threw. It was underthrown based on where Hyatt was. Hyatt did not come back and get it. And Dable made a reference in his press conference to like, yeah, we tried to throw it up there and see if we could hit Jalen and see if we could get like a contested catch. I think it was an allusion to like, hey, look, we gave him a shot and he didn't do the right thing type deal. So he's in Chateau Bow Wow. He's
on a Hail Mary. Oh yeah. Let's see if he could do it. Let's see if he could do the right thing on a Hail Mary, and then we'll see if we could determine more playing time. That makes sense.
This is where we're at, New York, Betty. This is where we're at. Hey, you're the best. Thank you so much for every week helping us break down the top stories in the league. This has been First Down with Bennie Fowler. Beans, looking forward to enjoying some Monday Night Football tonight, and then rolling into Week 5 with you. Thanks again.
Appreciate you, Pat.
That was First Down with Bennie Fowler, recapping Week 4. That was a great conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Remember, we are sponsored here by MyBookie. It's a 10th anniversary for MyBookie, and they are rolling out the red carpet for bettors. Use my promo code PATSPICKS on the link in any of my social media profiles and bios, and you will get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. If you're already a MyBookie user, there's something for you as well. They have a new loyalty rewards program called MyBookie Plus. The more you play, the more you earn. You go through tiers and unlock exclusive promotions, giveaways, get cash back in your account. They have risk-free Thursdays as well. If you want to win all season long, all football season, go to MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee. It's a delicious, all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes 10 seconds to make an iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. Also, by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkingBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Talking Ball Live and Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. Tune in next time.